nice though, being prepared, right, Ben?
Yep.
Another fun part of mise en place is sipping the sake as you cook, because it shouldn't just be saved for the meal. I think you can sip on it while you're cooking, and then you can really enjoy it because you know all the ingredients that you put in, and you can play with what you find in the aromas.
I'm following you there, Kelly. We're tasting here now.
So while this is cooking, I just want to say, you know, we talked about Wagyu, but we didn't really talk about what Wagyu means. Wagyu essentially means Japanese cow. Wa is Japanese and Yu is cow. So it literally translates as Japanese cow. And, you know, in order for it to be Japanese Wagyu, it has to be, the cattle has to be born and bred and raised in Japan. So that's part of what makes it so special and so unique. And can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. You know, typically, Japanese cow takes about 2 to 3 years to raise to maturity, and there's a lot of care, given to the cows, and there's very, very low stress, and that's why, you know, throughout the years they build up this nice marbling and this nice fat naturally. There's no hormones, none of that stuff, and that's why they become so delicious and so, you know, wonderful, because it takes so long to grow and mature.
Yeah, I'll add to that, Ben. Yeah, the treatment, and in my studies, the treatment of the animal itself is very respectful, first and foremost. And I think, you know, we as chefs are always striving for the very best ingredients. And a lot of that is how animals are raised and how vegetables are raised, for that matter, and doing it responsibly, sustainably, in the very best ways. You know, and I think this is like the ultimate representation of that. So we have that here. I'm gonna put a little bed of rice down. So we start to prepare our plate. Our veggies are almost ready.
What happens?
So I always pick something that's very colorful. It's going to show off our vegetables, our shiitake mushrooms, fennel. We got beautiful pieces of fennel that just beautifully caramelized. Smells magnificent. A couple of those little bok choy leaves.
Kelly, can you start talking to us about the pairing with sake now that we're plating the dish?
Of course. So our first sake with our main dish, with our first dish is the Soto sake. This is from Niigata in Japan. It's very cold in Niigata. And just to start off with, Japan is a very mountainous country. So the water plays a very important part in the sake making. There are 4 main ingredients in sake. It's rice, water, yeast, and koji mold. And the koji mold, if you're not familiar with, it's what helps break down the starch in the rice. It turns it into sugar, and then the sugars are eaten up by the yeast, and that's what creates the alcohol. Something to note about our Soto sake is that it is premium. It's Junmai Daiginjo. And those are all very big words in Japanese, and I'll break them down for you. Depending on how much the rice is milled and polished, will determine the grade of the sake. So we're drinking premium. We're very fortunate to have this beautiful sake from Soto. We're drinking premium sake, which means the original grain of rice was shaved down to 50% of its original size before it was produced and turned into sake. And this is really important because the more you shave off the fats and the proteins that are on the outside of the grains of rice, the more you get to the center, and the more fragrant and fruity and floral it will be. And that's exactly what we have in our sake tonight. If you've opened it up and maybe you don't have it in a white wine glass, I suggest you try it like that if you're interested in exploring the aromas of it. I have these smaller little cups, which are great, but you won't be able to really get your nose in there and determine what you're actually smelling. So if you want to take a moment to do that, I'll wait for you, or I'll continue as you do that. So the taste on this sake is very light, like I said, fruity, floral, crisp. There's some yellow fruits in here that I'm picking up really nicely. Yellow fruits like apple skin, like yellow pears. And it's just really a beautiful sake. I think it works nicely with our meal tonight because with our first course, because the fennel is light and very fresh. It has a little bit of anise, a licorice aroma to it, and the taste when we get there. And it all just helps to support the meal. It's not overpowering. It's a very versatile drink to go with our first course. I think that's great. Let me get my plate.
Get your plate, Kelly. Yeah, and just some cashews on top. Yeah, I would add to what Kelly was saying. Like when I first tasted this sake and tried to think of, what would accompany, starting of course with the Wagyu and the seasoning of it specifically, I thought it just had that little bit of essence to it, and I thought this is a great pairing because it's also a foil, and the acidity, in the sake is also really, really nice. But, has that vegetal back taste too, palate, and complements, I think, the fattiness. So when you're taking a bite of Wagyu and vegetable and even, the rice underneath it, and then sipping the sake after that. And that's how you should do that. You should take a bite, savor it for a little bit of the food, and then follow it just a couple seconds later with a sake and kind of cleanse the palate with it.
I agree.
But really a nice seasoning.